here's where the facts differ. The land was investment property in P's hands. But for the partnership, the land is inventory. Everybody understand the facts? Okay. It was investment land in P's hands before he contributed to the partnership. P's basis is 40, his fair market value is 25. Okay? Now, he contributes the property to the partnership, and then, here's where the new twist comes in. The partnership sells the land for $23,000. Now you need to know one more fact in order to determine this. First of all, these facts raise which one of those sections?
Capital loss of property.
3. Why?
But in order for that to apply, it needs to have been inventory in P's hands prior to the contribution.
Inventory contributed by a partner in exchange for a partnership interest.
You become inventory after the fact.
Okay, it's an inventory. All right, first of all, does it have to be inventory in P's hands or inventory in the partnership's hands for 3 to apply?
Partners.
In the partner's
The
hands.
He contributed in for number 3, what interpreted is.
So does 3
that
apply or
is a
doesn't
piece-
it apply?
It's a big contributed inventory.
But it's not inventory in P's hands when he contributed.
So
It
3 does not apply to this.
does not.
Number
So
one.
only 4. So
Why?
it's 17%.
Because it's inventory in the partnership's hands. For 3 to apply, it's gonna be inventory in the partner's hands. Be careful. $724B.
It says, in the case of any property which first was contributed to the partnership by a partner and was an inventory
Inventory in the
item
hands
in the
of
hands,
such partner. Under these
immediately-
facts,
3 doesn't.
it was investment property in the hands of the partner. So under the facts of our problem, 724B is not applicable. Does everybody understand that? Okay.
4 applies.
What about number 4?
That one applies.
Is this capital loss property?
Yes.
Why is it a capital loss property? Its fair market value is less than basis, right?
Right.
Now, if these two numbers were switched around, 4 wouldn't apply either.
Correct.
Okay?
And because it was sold,
And this says capital loss property contributed by a partner. Well, it's investment land. That's clearly a capital asset in the partner's hands. And he's contributing property that has a built-in capital loss. So what additional facts do we need to know?
How long after?
Yeah, let's say he sells the land for $23,000, 6 years after date of contribution. DOC means date of contribution. Is 724C gonna apply under those facts?
Yes.
Read what it says. First of all, what's the rationale behind this ridiculous rule? It's confusing the hell out of you
You
guys.
can't take
To find out if
losses.
it's capital.
Is to prevent ordinary gains from becoming capital gains. If this rule wasn't in the code, the land is inventory in the hands of the partnership, which means that the partnership would incur a $15,000 ordinary loss from the sale of inventory. But the code is saying, whoa, wait a minute. You've just by contributing this land to a partnership, you're converting a capital loss into an ordinary loss? Hell, that's a free-for-all to create ordinary losses out of capital losses, isn't it? So that's the reason why 724C is in the code. The rule prevents ordinary gains from becoming capital gains, and capital losses becoming ordinary losses. Okay? So we know that the partnership is going to incur a capital loss, providing what? What does the rule say? What do my facts say? It's going to be a capital loss for how long? For 5 years from date of contribution. I said the property was sold 6 years after date of contribution. So what kind of loss is it going to be?
Ordinary.
Ordinary. Okay. Now, that determines whether, so for 6 years, it's ordinary. What if it said 2 years? It would be capital. Everybody see that? If the property was sold within 5 years from the date it was contributed, that triggers 724C. If it was after 5 years, the IRS says, oh, the transaction's old and cold. We'll allow you to get ordinary income treatment because you've held the property as inventory for 5 years before you sold it. Okay? So when you're looking at 3 and 4, you gotta look at the 5-year rule. Okay? All right, now we have to determine, okay, we've got if the property was sold for $23,000, we have, what is the pre-contribution loss?
15,000.
40 minus 25. What is the total loss?
17.
Is 17. So of this $17,000 total loss, 15,000 is pre-contribution and 2,000 is post-contribution. So of the $17,000, how much is going to be allocated entirely to P?
15.
15. The remaining 2 is going to be allocated how?
place them amongst.
Correct.
based upon the partnership's
Agreement.
agreement, assuming you have one, or handshake, or whatever the hell it is. So for 50-50 partners, and there's A and P, A will pick up $1,000 of that loss, and B will pick up $1,000 of that loss. Okay? But the key thing to realize is, when you're dealing with pre-contribution capital loss property, is you gotta determine whether the sale took place more than or less than 5 years of date of contribution. If it's more than 5 years, 724C does not apply, and you can take your ordinary loss if it's inventory. If it was capital property contributed by a partner, and it's sold less than 5 years, then the loss is deemed to be capital. Any questions on that?
Where's the 17 coming from? Is it
He
15?
sold it for 23, the basis was 40.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not very clear, I'm sorry about that, I got numbers written all over the place. Okay,
Okay, now it makes sense, yeah.
but we have to allocate the $17,000 loss between pre-contribution and post-contribution,
Okay, thank you.
okay? So there's an example of number 4.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have kind of a real world scenario. I don't think you'll test us on this. If you buy a business or buy a partnership with this scenario in it,